Hey guys, and welcome to the Grimmer video on Unit 5, Identifying Relative Clauses. Identifying relative clauses. So we're going to be talking about a lot of things in this short video. You can follow along in Unit 5 or go back to Unit 5 to review. A couple things I want to talk about before we get started is in identifying relative clause, which is another way to say kind of like an adjective. It describes a noun. Okay, an identifying relative clause is a clause that describes a noun. It usually answers the question, which one? Which one? Okay, because it's identifying and it's acting kind of like an adjective to tell us which one, we do not use commas. So I want you to remember that for this section. In Unit 5, I'll put it up at the board, identifying relative clauses, we don't use commas because this is considered essential information to identify which person or thing we're talking about, okay? Which noun we're talking about. So please don't use commas. We will use it in Unit 18 when we're giving extra information and we're talking about usually some description of the person, a teacher at Schoolcraft College, someone who does this or that. Okay, they start with a relative pronoun, and this was the first thing I said you guys need to be very comfortable with, is choosing the relative pronoun. The relative pronoun begins the relative clause, and it could be who or whom, but for this class's purposes, for life, you really just need to know how to use who, whom most grammar books don't even teach anymore, which is for a person, right, people? Okay, we use which or that for inanimate, that means not alive, okay? Things that are not alive, more like nouns, items, objects, okay? And then we use whose for a possession, and so, or a possessive, so usually we see it with his or hers, theirs, ours, right? Like whose bottle I took, all right, it's his bottle. Whose flowers I bought, her flowers, okay? So these relative pronouns, a little bit about them and how to choose them. Not as easy as it sounds, I know that's true. Okay, as we continue on, we have our relative pronouns. We know that it's describing a noun. It gets a little bit tricky, right? We're combining sentences, combining two sentences. When we have one sentence and then we have another sentence that describes the other one, we combine it by using this relative clause. We're combining. So we're taking two sentences that were separate and now we're getting them together with a relative pronoun and no commas, okay? And it becomes one sentence. It becomes one sentence. Now, sometimes I want to talk for just a second about subject versus object. It can make a difference. Okay, so when we're combining the two sentences, if the noun is in the subject position, and as you remember, English subject, verb, object. If it's in the subject position, we can use who, which, that, okay, or whose, but really this is where we're concerned mostly about who, which, or that. If it's in the object position, which means it comes after the verb, okay, or if it is the object of a preposition, okay, for the class. If it's the object of a preposition, then we use whom, okay, or which, okay, or that. All right, so the object and subject preposition position does make a difference at times, especially with who and whom. But like I said, most Americans, even in their writing, are very casual about who and whom, and we only use who, really. So if you're not feeling confident about whom, So do 90% of Americans. And so that's why we just use who. Okay, so we have the subject position, which comes before the verb, the object position, which comes after. All right, so let's practice combining two sentences. So, I saw the girl in the back of the room. Okay, so this time, remember our first step, find the same noun. Which noun is being described? We've got the girl and the girl. Okay, second thing, decide which pronoun. Sorry, who is in the back of the room. So it's a who, of course, it's a who, because she is a person, okay? And it's in the subject position, subject, verb, object, so it's not whom, it's the subject position before the verb. So we use who. And then we put the relative clause after the noun it's describing. We put the relative clause after the noun it's describing. This is the most important step, right? Well, every step is important. It comes after the noun that it is describing. So we're going to describe this noun, the girl. I saw the girl. Okay, now we put it over here. Who is in the back of the room? Be sure to eliminate this noun. Do not repeat it. We don't need to say who the girl is. We don't need to repeat the noun. We're replacing it with the pronoun who. Pronouns replace nouns. So we should only see the noun one time. We should see the relative pronoun, and then we should see a clause or a sentence after. And it's describing which girl, right? Which girl. Okay, I hope that helps. Good luck with your homework, and I'll see you guys in class.